episode of Empower Apps. I'm your host, Leo Dion. Today, I'm joined by Adam Rush. Adam, so glad you can make it on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Adam and I met at Deep Dish, which I'll be going to this year, so I'm super excited about that. I don't know, are you going?
Was it Deep Dish we met? I think it was...
Or was it 360 iDev?
It was 360 iDev.
That's right. Okay. Yeah,
Another
that's right.
conference.
So many. Yeah. So I'll let you start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Adam Rush, as you've said. I live here in the UK and have done. I was born here, of course. But I mean, I've travelled all over the world, speaking, also working as well. But nowadays I try to live a slower pace of life, shall we say. I live here with my... I say slower pace of life, but I don't know.
Hosting a conference, nothing big, yeah, totally.
Yeah. I live here with my wife and two children, so that also keeps me busy here at home. So yeah, I've been an iOS dev since the iPhone 3GS came around, so however many years that was, and I've been doing that ever since.
What got you interested in iPhone development?
So it's an interesting story. So I was doing, I was merely messing around doing websites and tinkering around with stuff like that, and it was my brother actually who bought the 3G, the iPhone 3G, and he's a bit older than me, but he was like showing off, look at this phone, I've got this phone, and I was sort of playing super ignorant. I was like, terrible phone, I'd never want that phone, but deep down I was super jealous, and I was I was just so annoyed that he got this phone, and then I was like nagging my parents to buy me the next iPhone. And luckily they did, which was the 3GS. And then just by sheer curiosity, I started investigating what apps were and how they were built and all this sort of stuff. And that's how it kind of spiraled into what it turned out to be.
We'll start by talking about the big event we have going on. I think as of the recording, ticket sales have been out. So you have a big conference that you host. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm the organizer, founder of SwiftLeeds. We're rolling onto our fourth edition.
Nice.
And ticket sales have literally gone on sale yesterday, as of today, but obviously this is going out further on. But we've just released tickets, and super exciting time when we launch tickets. It's quite magical because here I am launching a conference, and 5 years ago I had this idea to do this, and I thought maybe 50 people will turn up, and maybe people I know and associate will support me and buy tickets. But now we're at a level where we have people buying tickets who I'm not sure who they are. So
that's awesome.
It's quite overwhelming because I'm like, I don't know this person. Like, what? How did they find SwiftLeeds?
What? So why did you want to start SwiftLeeds? What was your goal?
Yeah, so I've always been a huge fan of conferences. I think they're super important for the community, for us all to have, for those to exist. And when I started doing iOS development, I was, reading tutorials and doing what everyone else does when they're starting out. And I found a conference in the UK, iOS Dev UK, and I thought, I should go to this and see what it's about. And from that moment, everything changed. I had such an amazing time, and I thought, right, I'm gonna attend conferences, and I kept attending conferences, and then I started getting into speaking and going to more conferences in different countries and stuff. And at that point, I kind of thought, I think I think we can do something different. You know, I think there's
Right.
a gap in conferences that we can or could be fulfilled. And I always had this idea for years and years, and I just kept parking the idea because I thought, you know, I'm not capable of doing something like that. It's a lot of work. Maybe there's not enough space in the UK for another conference. So my rationale was kind of, I saw a gap of a conference being a little bit different, you know, and I thought I've got a lot of ideas I can give to a conference, and that was kind of the driver to you know, spinning up SwiftLeeds.
I want you to have that opportunity to make your sales pitch. Why should people go to SwiftLeeds this year?
SwiftLeeds is different to most conferences, I would say, and there's quite a few reasons why that is. I'd say the number one reason is we're non-profit, so nobody taking part in the conference is making money. The only people that make money is the venue and, you know, people who provide equipment hire and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, we don't make money. So what that means is we can keep ticket prices affordable. So we can keep the ticket costs pretty low in comparison to other conferences. But then it also means everything we do generate, we pump back into the conference. And you've only got to look at like the swag that we hand out, you know, is high quality, it's unique in many ways. So we think people get the value of that or see the value of that when they come to the conference. So that's probably like the number one reason. The next reason is we give so many new first-time speakers an opportunity to be on stage and present. I think last year alone, it was like 80% were first-time speakers or something like that.
That's awesome.
So you don't see this, you don't see the same typical speakers, right? We get new people on stage, we give them that training that they need, and you know, we give them the opportunity they need. So that's another sort of uniqueness to SwiftLeeds. And then the other thing I would say is the environment we create is very fun. It's very playful. We have the lights on the stage. We give a lot of energy into the conference. You know, you're not in a lecture room. You're in a big theatre.
Nice.
It's got that sort of playful element, and we think that creates an environment where people can, you know, network. They can learn. They can collaborate with others. You know, a real sort of inclusive environment where people can thrive.
What are some topics you're kind of interested in this year as far as what you think is going to be hot, as far as like what people are interested in? I know there's a certain product that's coming out today that probably there's going to be a few talks on today, the day of the recording. So there's that. What else do you think is going to be hot at SwiftLeeds this year?
Yeah, I think for sure Vision Pro is going to be up there and tapping into Vision OS. I'm not sure actually. We're doing something slightly different this year in the sense that we're going to open. This is an exclusive, by the way. We're going to open Call for Papers twice. So we're going to open it on. Yeah, so we're going to open it on the 1st of March, like we normally do. But then we're going to also open it after WWDC to see if
Makes
there's
sense.
any,
yeah,
you know, anything we might have missed that could be introduced this year. Because I don't know, I was looking at some articles over the course of this week, and it looks like iOS 18 is getting a huge undertaking. So I'm really curious about like what AI stuff they're introducing into iOS, and yeah, maybe that's going to be some hot topic that could be at SwiftLeeds.
Well, let's talk about that, I guess. So we did the last episode about the Vision Pro and the EU stuff and the App Store stuff with Kyle, which was awesome. But today, let's talk about like your expectations for DubDub. So what was, so you've read? I saw a few bits and pieces today about AI and iOS 18. You want to kind of, what have you read, if much, in regards to that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, this is very much speculation. That we
And it
read,
could change by the time the episode comes out, for all we know. Yeah, but go ahead.
But it it looks like a lot of the AI is getting, well, I guess like Siri in a nutshell. I think is going to be changing quite a lot, in the sense that it's going to be a lot more predictive in what it suggests to the user.
Okay.
So I think Siri is going to be massively changing in this OS release, and I think we're going to see a lot less emphasis on hardware and more emphasis on software. And I think AI is probably going to be up there in that. That's what Apple is seeking to promote. So I think we saw Siri starting to, predict, hey, you're going to this location again. Are you visiting X place, right? And that's already built into the OS. But I think we'll see the next level of that, where perhaps Siri is inserting calendar events for that place, or little things like that, and sort of taking it to that next level.
Did they come out with like a model recently? I'm looking for it because I feel like Apple had came out with something on GitHub that was like a model. Gosh, should have looked this up beforehand. That you can actually run on device. I'll find it and put it in the show notes. But it seems like Apple's kind of in an awkward position of like, they've been doing machine learning for a while and they've been pushing it. And then ChatGPT comes out, and now we have all this other stuff that's come out since that has like kind of skyrocketed. And been super popular and useful, and we've talked about how I've used it. So, and now it's like we're still like, if you try using Siri, it's like feeling like you're using something from like 15 years ago, and it's like an awkward position because it's like, what does that mean for a lot of, like, what do you think is different from? Well, I know what's different, but I'm going to ask you about what. But machine learning that Apple has been doing, and the machine learning and the stuff that's been coming out the last like year or so. And not just, well, obviously it's better, but what do you think? Why do you think Apple is behind in a way when they've invested so much time in it at the same time?
Yeah, I think that's a really good thought. I think, Apple are very clever, right, in that they kind of watch the market very closely, and they're never too quick to make a decision on things, right? So like the Vision Pro, for example, we know they've been watching that space for many years, and perhaps they've been doing the same here. Although I think ChatGPT was maybe an outlier in the sense that they just kind of snuck up on everyone and went, "Hey, look at this." I think the real answer is probably Apple has to be, I guess they've got to tread very carefully with machine learning when it comes to, there's so much at stake, right, on the device. There's so much personal information on the device. Like,
right.
I think they've definitely got the capability to predict a lot of things, but I think at the same time they're probably very cautious about, what data they're using to predict that. How much data do they need to predict that? I think that might be the very thing that's kind of holding back a little bit.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think like Apple has invested all their time and money in on device machine learning, and while that's very good for privacy purposes, it really makes it much more difficult to do kind of the heavy lifting that stuff like ChatGPT does, which is all cloud based essentially. That's like that was one of the things that like I didn't understand about ChatGPT. It was like, oh, like you have to get a massive server to get it up and running and to do all that stuff. And we know like Microsoft is basically lending them a ton of like Azure resources to get where they're going, and that has severe limitations on privacy, obviously, but also like it's not really Apple's wheelhouse is like the cloud per se. Um, yeah, and I'm not so sure. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how they're gonna get away with being like still being the privacy company while also taking advantage of machine learning, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting um, to see how they do that. But I also know they've invested huge amounts of resources into the Siri team. So yeah, I think it's definitely on the horizon, I would say. But yeah, it's
Do you
going to
think
be
we're gonna?
interesting.
Do you think when you say they've invested a lot, like they've invested a lot and we haven't seen anything because they're hiding it, or because they haven't made much success?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Okay, okay, yeah,
I,
because that's what I'm not sure about either.
yeah, I think it's probably the first one though, because I don't. I'm not sure they've been working on that for a huge amount of time. Like I think it's probably 1 to 2 years of
Okay.
time that they've probably. Do you know what I mean?
So you
But
think
this is
they've
just
like
my
purposely not like they haven't done much, and then all of a sudden in the last 1 to 2 years now they're going to start investing
the
more
ramp
into
up.
Siri again.
Yeah,
Okay, because it seems like it comes in fits and spurts with Siri. It's like, yeah.
yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. I think with the whole open AI and what's been going on, I think that's probably helped shift it into the
Right.
priority list. You know,
Yeah.
I think the
Yep.
priorities gone up because of what's gone on in the market.
Um. Do you think that? Um. Well, sorry. I was gonna say the other thing I think that we don't recognize as much, especially with the Vision Pro coming out today, is how much Apple is already doing when it comes to machine learning in a lot of places that are not as obvious, which is kind
Mm.
of Apple style anyway. When it comes to like noticing the finger pinch and face recognition and all that on device stuff that we just kind of take for granted that's behind the scenes. Like, Apple's been more invested in that space in the ton of machine learning that the Vision Pro and the iPhone and all those devices do, as opposed to like the more obvious Chat GPT where you're talking to someone. Uh, so I think that's another thing to kind of recognize is like we think of machine learning and we think of AI just as like talking to someone. That's obvious,
Mm.
but like there's a lot of other stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and they did a ton of work on Xcode. I think it was maybe like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, where they basically rebuilt the whole predictive um, side of Xcode. I can't remember what year it was.
But
But
that
yeah, I
uses
mean,
machine learning under the hood.
yeah,
I did not know that. That's pretty amazing.
yeah.
Now,
So like,
go ahead?
yeah. So I was just saying, like auto completing certain functions or like suggesting what's coming next. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. It was like maybe three
Because it's
years ago or
really good. It has.
something like
It
that.
is really good compared to the way it
Hmm.
used to be. Even when it's like not Objective C or Swift code, it's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, I kind of get an idea what you're trying to do here. Now, the question that a lot of devs will want to ask is, will we ever see a Copilot essentially, um, like what GitHub and Microsoft have in Xcode?
I
Do you think
think
that's possible?
I
And
think
like, how
we're
would they get away with it for privacy
yeah.
reasons? Because a lot of people are like, classic Apple, no, because privacy of their own work. What do you think?
I think it'll only happen if they build it themselves. You know, like
Right.
so I don't think we'll see it anytime soon. I think maybe it could happen, but I don't think it'll be soon because they're never going to say, okay, we're going to adopt, Copilot, for example.
Well, yeah, of course they build it themselves. Yeah, right.
But
Yeah.
obviously that's going to take up. But who knows, right? I mean, they might come out in 4 months' time and say, "Hey, look what we've built." you know,
Have you
like
have you played around with Copilot in Visual Studio Code?
I've only used it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I use VS quite a lot for like the scripting side of stuff that I'm building, but I only trialed it. I've never sort of built a whole project or anything like
Okay.
that.
When I do web dev, I've been using it, and like I'm just amazed at its ability to know what CSS I'm gonna like kind of CSS is rather visual, right? As far as like, oh, what you want to do, and it, like kind of knows, oh, well, you did this with this paragraph, so obviously you want to do this, and yeah, I love it. It's amazing. I don't need it, but man, it's like really nice to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been using Chat GPT. Like sometimes I'll paste it like a snippet of like a Bash script, and wow, it's like it can just like tweak it ever so slightly, just based on like the recommended, like the best practice, right? But I don't know those best practices because it's not something I
Right.
do all the time.
Right.
So it's really nice. It'll just be like, oh yeah, this is how you would format your arguments or whatever.
So I've taken my laziness to another level where I'll just ask ChatGPT write me a Bash script that does this, and I'd say it's pretty good. Honestly, it's when I like start being like, well, can you do this too? Can you do this? I was doing. I wanted to write a bunch of unit tests for a library I'm working on, and I was like, write a Bash script that finds every public function and creates a corresponding test file with the same directory. Like, pretty complicated, and I was like, yeah, screw it, let it do it, and it was okay. It was fine at first, but the more and more I added more caveats, the more it was like, yeah, this isn't working. So it is what it is.
Yeah, and I've experienced that as well. I was doing some regex on something.
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
And I was like, yeah, but you've not covered this case, so it would tweak the regex slightly, and then it would break, and I was like, yeah, that don't work, and then it'd tweak it again, and it's like, yeah, that don't work. So like, it just wasn't getting it.
It feels like whack-a-mole, where it's like, you tell it fix this thing, and then something breaks, and then you're like, oh, I'll fix that thing, but then the other thing breaks that it fixed previously, and it's like, it doesn't, it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can complain too much. Like, it's like it's pretty amazing. But yeah, it's not perfect.
So let's talk a little bit more about our expectations. What do you think? Where do you think more of like the generative AI stuff might fit in with iOS 18?
I think a lot more. I think we might see a lot more suggestive activity in iOS. I think sometimes you might see it in iOS 17. You've got your notification screen or the home screen, and you might see a suggestion like I got one the other day. I think it was
Like journaling.
I don't think it was the journal because I think that was like a push notification. I think that was like a scheduled push, but it was something like, you normally do this, right? Like this is what you normally do at this time of day.
Right.
I think that'll get a lot more powerful in terms of better at predicting what you do throughout the day. I think we'll see a lot more suggestive behavior there. I think we'll also see, like the journal is a great example where they're using like notifications. I think we'll see the next level of notification center. We've already seen how they've overhauled that, right? Where they're grouping notifications, they're also muting. You can mute notifications, but I think maybe is there a little bit more they can do there because it can still be quite noisy. Perhaps you just don't respond to a notification, so they'll just never give you it. that kind of
right.
behavior. So I think that might be something we'll see. I think overall we'll just see a more stable platform. I think it'll be a lot more polished. I don't think there'll be anything massive, but I think it'll be a lot more kind of polished.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anything else as far as iPhone is concerned you want to talk about?
No, I don't think. Honestly, I don't think the iPhone is going to be hugely different. To be honest, I don't think.
Other than the AI sprinkled throughout.
The AI, yeah. I think that. Yeah. Look. I mean, I don't think we can dispute that the focus is going to be on the Vision Pro, right? I mean, it's. I just think it's going to dominate every part of DubDub.
So you haven't done much. Neither of us have done much with Vision OS. So unfortunately, I don't think we can really speak about what we expect per se in the next 6 months. I'm sure there's stuff that they have on the back burner that they were waiting to do on Vision OS 2. But like, I mean, yeah. Is there anything you can think of?
I think what we're going to see is they've already released a PR this week, I mean, yesterday or this morning, a press release showing 600 apps for Vision Pro or something like that. I think we're going to see the usual marketing right around, this device being sold out. It's now in the hands of real people. This is how it's helping people day to day. We've already got developers building apps. We've got 600 apps built specifically for Vision Pro. Right, we're going to see this. This usual push from Apple, and then I think looking forward, I think they'll just keep building on that, and then I'm just banking on a cheaper device. Like I'm just waiting for this cheaper, more affordable Vision Pro.
So I just saw a post today. I was talking to Kyle in the last episode. Like I didn't see any like business apps, but it sounds like Microsoft is going to start building Teams and Office for Vision OS. Okay. So, that's a really good sign. I think too might see more like tutorials of like, here's how to bring your iPhone app to the Vision OS, or here's how to bring an iPad app to Vision OS. Because I think that's probably where they'll push it more. As opposed to adding more features is trying to help people transition to Vision OS. Because that's really what they want. I think I could see a lot of tutorials like that.
I think we will, but I think the Vision Pro is slightly different these days because if you support iPad, I mean, you're pretty much fine. Like it'll look great on Vision Pro, right?
Right. But I think there could be like bells and whistles where it's like I'm not as familiar with Mac Catalyst, but I would assume it's something like that where it's like, yeah, you can just bring your iPad app over, but here are some things you could do to make it better on the Mac. Probably something like that.
Exactly that. And then I think we'll see a lot of tutorials of just building for Vision Pro, right? Like building a brand new app for Vision Pro. And that's when you really could take advantage of all the uniqueness to Vision Pro, right?
Right.
But I think it's slightly different in the sense that, yeah, you could, if you've got an app already and it's using SwiftUI, then it's pretty much going to render pretty nicely in Vision Pro. I mean, granted, It's going to be a window, right? It's going to look like the iPad or however big you make the window in the Vision Pro screen. I mean, what do we call it?
Yeah.
Then it'll look fine. It'll work fine. It responds to all of the same touches, keyboard interactions, that kind of thing. It's basically the same. But I think we'll see a lot of tutorials of how to build a Vision Pro app. That kind of thing.
What do you think we'll see with the other OSs as far as like? I mean, last year was a big watch here, so I don't feel like we're gonna get a lot there. TV is always there. It's a thing. The Mac, like, are we gonna see anything on the Mac front? I don't know what. Like,
yeah,
I wish they keep fixing bugs, but good luck with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Isn't it? I think we'll just see the small additions that we tend to see, and it's funny, isn't it? Because like for people who have been around for many years, they used to make a big song and dance about big features, right? Because they were big at the time, but now we're getting to a point where features like small improvements are like big features. I remember they brought out like stickers on iMessage or something like that, and it was the
Oh,
front
there's
and
always
center
those things, right?
of WWDC. It was like
Was it
huge
animojis?
card,
Like,
yeah, something like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's always these things that they push that kind of people forget about. What is the thing that came out either last year or 2 years ago that was like on the iPad and Mac where you could like see all your apps? Stage Manager. Stage Manager.
Yeah, yes.
I don't know anybody that uses Stage Manager. Do you?
No.
Um,
Uh,
that's actually. I want to talk about one other device that we kind of have mentioned, but the iPad. Yeah, I'm like, I feel like every year they try to make it a thing, and I know they're like desperate to like make a big redesign of it, and I know there's this rumor about like a 13-inch iPad Air, but like, I don't know what they're gonna do with the iPad. It's like, you know what I mean?
yeah, it's in that middle ground of like it's almost doing what a Mac can do, but it's also a device you can hold and touch, right? And it's like
Right.
it's a difficult, because I remember Microsoft did this right with the I can't
Surface?
remember. Yeah, was it the Surface or the one before that? Um, but it was a version of Microsoft, and it was like, yeah, this don't work for any device that isn't touch. so, so I think it's a tough challenge to. I think it's a hard nut to crack, but I think we'll see the usual improvements and changes to make it better for working, for an environment to work in.
What could they
But
do?
I'm not sure. Well, actually, I think. The feature where you can have the split screen, right? So you can have
Yeah.
two apps open. I think there's a lot more they could do with that. Like even having more of a grid, so you could have like a split screen vertically, but maybe horizontal. Can you do that? I don't think that's.
No, you cannot do horizontal.
can't do
You can
that.
only do
So
vertical.
maybe
Yep.
maybe there's more layout things they could do to improve the working side of it. People that work on the iPad. So maybe we'll see things like that, and it would be really nice if they could open that up as well for developers, so you can, maybe
I think like
I don't know.
to me like the biggest hurdle is the business case and the lack of cross application like sharing. I think those are the two big hurdles with the iPad, and if they can figure those out somehow, um, I think it could be better. But like, it's just hard. Especially, I've been saying this, especially since the Apple Silicon transition. Like, you can get a Mac cheaper that does more than you
Yeah,
can for an iPad Pro, and it's like, yeah,
yeah. It's like I guess who's buying the iPad? What's the target market for the iPad? Because like you say,
yeah,
if you're working, you could get a Mac
pretty
for
much the same price. Yeah,
yeah,
if not cheaper.
exactly. So yeah, or is the target market, more the casual playing games, or
Right.
taking notes, studying, that kind of thing.
I did notice yesterday at the coffee shop that there were a couple of people, at least 2 or 3 people with iPads and keyboards. So
Okay, yeah,
it's still a thing, I guess. So yeah, we'll see about this year. Um, I want to talk about Swift and Xcode. There is one big feature I'm looking forward to. So we got 5.10 coming out pretty soon in Xcode 15.3, I believe.
hmm
So I don't know if Xcode 16 will be. I don't think it's going to be 6. 6 is going to be a while, but I do think it'll probably be 5.11 or 5.12 or something. The big feature I'm really looking forward to is typed throws. Have you seen this?
I've not. No.
So we're getting type throws pretty soon, where we can specify the type of error that gets thrown. I think that's something I'm really looking forward to.
I think I did see this actually on something.
Yeah. So one of the big problems with errors is like we don't know what type, like we don't know what error gets thrown, and so if you know what error is going to actually be thrown because you're the one defining the function, when you catch it, there's no way you have to have a catch for every error type, even though you know you'll never throw those other error types. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like why is it only just coming now? like it feels like.
Yeah, I think it's like an oversight when they started adding try catch, and like they're finally getting it in now that, now that they have the time to do it, I guess. Go ahead.
I've not really been keeping an eye on like the proposals and stuff. Is there any other is that the sort of key takeaway for you? I've not really seen.
Yeah, I mean that's the one that I know in the public. I don't know that we have like a macro or a Swift UI type thing that's on the docket. I think a lot of where Swift is at is kind of preparing for Swift 6. And Swift 6 is essentially like more and more tightening on the async await front. If you enable some of the the checks that go in with Swift 6, I think I posted an article about that before, but you can enable that and get warnings and see what issues you will see in the future. It's a lot of it is like more strict concurrency checking.
Okay.
So yeah, it's going to be, I think they're just kind of getting ready for, excuse me. I think they're getting ready for that because I don't know of any rumored or proposed changes to Swift that are like kind of hints to what big features might be coming out, if you know what I mean. So like we had DSL before Swift UI and we had macros before Swift data. So I don't see anything like that this year. It was already a big year last year with macros and Swift data. I just can't imagine that we're going to get something else big.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it'll be like any other year where we've seen previously. I
think it's an off year because last year was so big.
Exactly. Yeah. I think and we see this approach quite a lot, right? You know, where there's like big, huge changes, and then it's kind of like, right, we need to slow down. We need to fix issues, get it stable.
Fix Swift data. It's like
I've not done to be honest. In my day job we're still UIKit.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of Swift UI stuff. Like we've just built the live activity, the dynamic island. We've built all that in Swift UI, and we're also looking at the watch, which is probably going to be in Swift UI. But we've not done a huge amount, to be honest.
That's interesting because it's like the stuff you've done in Swift UI is the stuff you have to do in Swift UI, right? Like live activities is not available on UIKit. I mean, if you want to torture yourself and do a watch kit, you could, but Swift UI is basically the way to develop in the watch. And what do you think? So you do a lot of UIKit right now, correct?
Yeah.
How does it feel? How does it feel to still be a UIKit developer? What's kind of the game plan, and what do you think is going to happen with UIKit this year? I don't follow UIKit as much because once Swift UI came out, I pretty much have gone all in. But I mean, UIKit's awesome. It works. It's smooth. You don't have performance issues, things like that. Do they still come out with talks for UIKit? Do you feel like you're lagging behind by continuing to have to support UIKit? How do you feel about it right now?
Yeah, no, this is a really interesting question. We actually had So there's only 4 of us on the iOS team here. We had a catch up yesterday. Actually, we were chatting on a similar topic about this. I don't know. Like I think SwiftUI and UIKit is very different to where we were with Swift and Objective C, right? So I think that's something we have to mention straight away, because often I think they can be in a similar debate, right? When it comes to this, I think it's very different, and I think that'll be reflected in how Apple approaches this. I think UIKit will still be maintained. It'll still have bugs fixed, new features, new improvements. I think we'll see that for some time. But of course, Apple will always recommend SwiftUI as the way to build apps going forward, and I think Apple will keep.
I mean, they clearly was it last year or 2 years ago when they had the thing where it's like, we see SwiftUI as the future. Yeah. Okay.
And that makes complete sense. However, I think people who have been building on UIKit moving to SwiftUI is fine. Like I don't think that's a huge task, but I think people from SwiftUI to UIKit is a huge task. So I think actually we're probably at an advantage in that there's a lot of apps out there that are fully UIKit, still relying on UIKit. So I think we've probably got an advantage in the industry in terms of attracting that work, right? Because if there's a lot of people who are just entering iOS and they're only doing SwiftUI, I think there's a huge opportunity of apps out there that need UIKit development. I think that's one thing to consider. And then I think the next thing to think about is because there's so many apps still using UIKit, I can't see a world where Apple says, look guys, we're not going to maintain this. We're not going to I just think it's going to be years and years.
So it's more like new widgets will always be SwiftUI, like not new views, but new widgets, new like brand new outside of the app infrastructure things will only be in SwiftUI, widgets and live activities and stuff like that. But then, yeah, I think you're right. I think UIKit will still be available on the app. I think they'll still come out with tweaks and improvements to it. Like it seems like that. Like especially what's a big one? Like moving a UI collection view for pretty much everything. Like that's been a big thing. Yeah, I agree 100%. It's like, yeah. I was just going to say, I have like a talk that I did about transitioning from Objective-C to Swift, because there's still Objective-C code out there. And it's like, yeah, there's still a market for apps that to me is a much more bigger push to get off of Objective-C than it is to get off of UIKit totally.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like a fundamental language versus, building UI effectively.
Yeah.
So I think it is different, but what was I going to say?
Do you Vision Pro, that's UIKit, or is it just SwiftUI?
Oh, that's a really good question.
That is a really good question.
Well,
I'm totally not searching for it for right now. Go ahead.
but yeah, it's both, right? Because I mean,
right, that's what I meant.
Yeah. It's both, because it's just treated like any other device. So yeah, so if you had a UIKit view and you use the hosting control or whatever and put it into SwiftUI, it'd be the same doing that on the iPhone than it is on the Vision Pro, I think, right?
Gosh, this is a problem with having two people who haven't developed for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So let me just look up a UI collection view. We're totally dumb. Yeah, UI collection view is in Vision OS. So,
yeah.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's iOS iPad OS, Mac Catalyst, TV, and Vision OS. So yeah, because I was saying that because with TV OS, it's UIKit as well. It's the Watch and Mac that are the outliers that have their own system.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So but I mean, most people are gonna choose SwiftUI, right? It's and
right.
and even me.
It's for people who already have an existing app. I mean, like you said, Apple wants to make it as easy as possible for people to transition their apps over, and that's makes total sense.
Yeah, because
UIKit.
I was trying it. So the company I work for at Circuit, I basically compiled the app that we have for the Vision Pro, and it works.
Okay.
It works fine. Like it looks like an iPad, just in front of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you said, they just want it to work, and as well, I think the Vision Pro is ticked on by default in App Store Connect.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, they just want most apps available as possible.
Adam, was there anything else you wanted to mention before we close out?
No, just it's been great. I know we chatted right at 360 IDEV, and he was like, it'd be great to have you on the podcast, and here we are like 1 year later. But yeah.
Hopefully I'll see you in person at some conference soon. We'll see. Maybe I'll make it to Leeds. We'll see.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and people can buy a ticket, fill out a CFP. They'll be out in a few days, so definitely check that out. And thank you, Adam, for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Where can people find you online?
So I'm on, I was going to say Twitter. I'm on X as Adam9Rush, and I'm also on LinkedIn, and you can grab me on those platforms. And the website is swiftleeds.co.uk if you want to check out the conference.
Awesome. Thank you again, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
People can find me on X at LeoGDion, Mastodon at leogdion.c.im. My company is Bright Digit. Take a look there. We got some new blog posts on the new Swift Open API generator if you're interested in using that. Updates to Swift Architecture guide. So definitely check that out. If you enjoyed this episode, please take some time to post a review, and if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone.